So now she is living in New York in Queens. Amanda has moved to Queens, her childhood best friend, and they have an apartment together.
She says Amanda got a job at a tech company that made comedy videos for the internet. The word tech, I get that a camera is tech and I get a web is tech, but would we call College Humor a tech company? Any company with a website is tech, I guess. We're tech.
We're a tech company. So then she goes to a party with Amanda and the CEO falls in love with Anna.
How lucky.
How lucky. He thinks she's so cute.
He has just sold the company for millions and millions of dollars, so he's so rich and has an apartment in Chelsea.
He says, I like you because you don't care about fancy things. You're down to earth, but you know how to rise to the occasion. I think she rose too far with that collection of vintage Gucci and hand-picked vintage furniture.
In her second home. She says, having money, power, means you get to make a lot of the decisions that people with less money, less power, simply have to go along with, even if they don't want to. I didn't pay for it, so who am I to complain? This inequality might begin as innocent, but eventually it coalesces into an insidious dynamic where the person with less remains submissive and pliable to the will of the one with more.
I don't believe Theo was malicious or mean or that he wanted me to feel subordinate to his power. I just think he didn't consider it. And this is something that I understand how this can become a dynamic, but if you did consider it, then you need to be the one to speak on it or change it. If this is a dynamic you don't enjoy, then I don't know, you don't have to date a rich and considerate man. And I get the power and the pull, but the way she just hates everything, I guess it's hard because I'm like, I understand you didn't like this, but what did you like? She makes fun of the parties he throws and how everyone's listening to All My Friends by LCD Sound System.
She says Theo was not particularly funny.
And it's just like, why'd you have to shoot at LCD Sound System?
Theo was nice and he was generous, never making me feel bad for the things that we did that he paid for.
He hates that she's a hair cutter, a hair shampooer.
He doesn't say that. His friend Rachel says that.
Yeah, but then when she asks him, do you hate this about me? He's like, well, I just don't know why you need to work at a salon. It doesn't sound that cool. Why don't you just start your own haircutting business?
And it is like, well, she's not licensed. So he goes, well, just come cut my hair at the office and then everybody will want you to do that. And then you can own your own business and have your own hours. And sure enough, it works.
So now she doesn't have a job. She just kind of like works for his friends.
She like really takes a shot at him being like, can you believe he doesn't even take home leftovers? I'm like, I guess I can believe it.
Every summer, he gets a house in the Hamptons with his friends and brings her along. She doesn't pay for it, but she feels like weird. She like can't hold down a regular job because she has to go to the Hamptons with him every summer. And when she's like, I don't know if I can go, I have to work. He's like, well, then just quit your job and come to the Hamptons. And she does, which I am like, well, at what point do you have a responsibility to yourself? No matter how unhappy I was, I would not back down or bow out. Instead, I kept coming back for more. Being with Theo and surviving the Hamptons became a petty masochistic game, one I was determined to win. What do you win?
A weekend in the Hamptons.
Congratulations.
The world's worst prize. This is like so frustrating. She has no self-awareness. I'm not saying this was a good relationship, but it's interesting that she never takes any accountability for the fact that she like
was obviously using him.
She is. She's dating this man that she doesn't like. And just because she plays stupid games, wins stupid prizes, just because she doesn't like the prizes, this is what society told you is good. And you clearly feel good being the girlfriend of this highly prized rich man.
But you don't like him. You don't like his friends. She has like a real contentious relationship with some of his friends.
All she can talk about is how inconsiderate he is for like not realizing the dynamic between them, that he had so much more money. And I'm like, well, how about how inconsiderate you are for knowing that you don't like him and you hate the lifestyle and dating him anyway? Not that I'm like saying he's not a bad guy. I mean, I can't imagine a 26-year-old with tons of money because he's so funny with his friends.
I'm sure he was a fucking piece of work.
He's a 26-year-old that just like randomly made millions of dollars. Do you ever look back and go, what did we know? We were just kids. It's so unforgiving and also like unaccountable. Like nobody made you date that man.
I don't know. If you don't want to change your entire lifestyle for him, why should he change his entire lifestyle for you? Maybe you guys are just deeply incompatible.
I mean, it's just that thing of being like, oh, he spent all this money on me and like took me on these fancy parties and to these fancy vacations and I didn't even like it or him. Okay, then what did you like? Because you stuck it out. Lord knows you weren't in a bad relationship with the poor.
I mean, she says that they went on a trip to Japan. She's like, he had so much money, but we didn't even really take a fancy trip.
On the way back, she sees a pretty mean email from his friend Rachel saying she's a gold digger. When you and I were hanging out, I insisted on paying for everything myself, even though I didn't have the money. She's taking advantage of you. You're blind to who she actually is. She will leave you broken alone. So they get into a huge fight. And I am just like, no, obviously that's horrible and you should have broken up with him. And she keeps being like, even if you don't feel that way, why would you not stand up for me to a friend who feels that way about me. And I agree, but I am like, I feel like I was in a similar relationship in my early 20s and I would sit there and be like, I don't want to be in the Hamptons. I don't want to be at these fancy dinners, blah, blah, blah. But then like, why didn't I leave? At some point you have to take accountability and be like, well, there was something that was quite validating about it. Even if it's not what you personally want, society told you like the best thing you can do is date a rich guy. And like, you're at these places other people want to be. And there is that thing when you're young and you don't know yourself, you go, well, this isn't what I want, but it's what someone wants. And it makes me feel good to have what someone else wants but can't have. And you love that. And she loved that. And for her to like not take accountability and be like, well, the Hamptons sucked, but it beat my like 4-person studio apartment in Queens. If she didn't want to be there, she wouldn't have been there. She's not being honest.
And I get at 23 not being able to be honest about that situation, but looking back, writing it down now, you have to see this.
She screams that he's a fucking liar. And then she goes, here's the thing about men lying to women while telling them they are crazy or overreacting. The lying, the underplaying on their side makes us doubt our intuition and intelligence. So eventually when suspicions are confirmed, when we find out that we've been correct all along, we do go batshit fucking crazy and it is warranted. And I agree. Like they lie to you, they tell you you're crazy and then you find out you were right and you're like, you made me feel crazy. But I'm sorry. She needs to accept that she did not want to have to face her own personal failures and lack of direction. And instead, she was like with this guy that she could go, well, this is what my future is. I'm dating this rich guy.
Yeah. And so then they break up, but not before he helps her pay for makeup artist school. So she does this makeup artist program that's $4,000. He pays for half of it. And then they break up and she's like, well, I feel really bad that you paid for half of makeup artist school. Can I pay you back? And he goes, oh yeah, I'd appreciate that. And she's like, oh.
And then she goes, I don't have $2,000 right now. And he goes, that's no problem. We'll do a sort of payment plan. How about you continue to cut my hair for free and I'll keep track of when it is edited up to $2,000, which feels quite generous and kind.
Yeah. So for the next 8 months, I cut Theo's hair every 5 weeks. He was always friendly, talking to me about work or that week's episode of The Bachelor. When I finished the haircut, he would pull out a slip of paper from his desk. At the top, it said $2,000. Each time he would write -40 and place the paper back in his desk. It was humiliating.
Why is it humiliating? I actually think it's more humiliating to just like this actually feels like the first reasonable thing you've done this whole book where you're like, I'm going to take my skills and like earn something.
So finally, her friends are like, this is crazy. So she calls him and says, I have a hard time feeling that you need this money as much as I do. He did not protest.
It was not money. You were not giving him money. Every 5 weeks for 8 months. So she gave him 6 haircuts and then go, this is crazy. Everyone thinks what you're doing to me is crazy. I guess I'm like, this feels like the least crazy thing I've heard. And if you didn't want to do it, you said, I don't want to do it anymore. And then he said, fine. This was like a thing he did for you to make you feel better about the money you took from him. I just can't believe she told this story and thinks he comes off bad. Like, can you believe he paid for me to go to school? And then when I offered to pay him back, he said that's okay. And then figured out a reasonable talent-based payment plan that's like quite understanding. And then when I said, I don't want to do this anymore, he said, that's fine. Isn't he an asshole? I guess like, no.
He probably was an asshole. It's just not illustrated well here.